Aloha and welcome to another illuminating Living Kuleana podcast episode of our cosmic explorations. And today I'm joined with my dear friend and sister and cosmic navigator, Natasha Kealoha, once again as we journey together into this profound realm of the retrogrades. It's gonna be a party up in here with these retrogrades.
Yeah.
So I always find retrograde so fascinating. So I decided to look up the deeper meaning of the word retrograde. And so retrograde comes from the Latin retrogradus, meaning to step backward. But in an esoteric sense, this movement is far more than just a simple reversal. It's a spiral return, kind of like a sacred retracing of steps to revisit, re-examine, and reclaim the parts of ourselves and our collective story that need more integration. So, retrogrades for me feel like we are going through this initiatory pause or a window or portal that invites us into this deeper reflection, the inner work, and the alchemical processing of transformation that we need to undergo and not bypass. So, we are going to get into this party of retrogrades today. And I say party because we've got a whole roster in the sky ready to bring us into this deeper connection into ourselves. So, Natasha and I previously spoke about the Pluto retrograde in our last episode. So, if you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend that you watch it. But we're going to dive into the other planets that are in retrograde or coming into retrograde soon, which are Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, Chiron, and Eris, which I just learned about today. So this is going to be really interesting. I feel like this combination of retrogrades can feel really intense, but I'm sure Natasha always has a different perspective on this. So I can't wait to hear this all. And from my initial reflection of maybe looking at all of this together, I feel like we're being asked not to just look backward, but to turn again through the steps that we might have missed and to spiral into more of an honest relationship with ourselves and each other. And I feel like these retrogrades are more of an invitation for us to really slow down, to feel, to have faith, to trust in ourselves, to kind of let go of control, as we just spoke about before this call, and to let things unfold naturally the way they need to, but with also this intentional action of wanting to alchemize the things that need to be alchemized. And sometimes our evolution requires a descent, and then this return to the source of what needs our love and attention. So today, Natasha and I will be exploring each of these retrogrades, what they mean for you, and how you can navigate these celestial currents that we are moving through with greater awareness, compassion, and curiosity. So settle in, take a deep breath, because we're going to need it, and join us as we map this season of cosmic retrospection together. So, Natasha, please bring us on this journey.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sis, for that beautiful introduction. Like your take and even your deep dive onto what retrograde means, the actual word. I'm like, yeah, done and seen. That's all of it. And I love that you said retrograde party too, because like you said, we are going into what I call the retrograde season. So every year we do have a season where it's basically multiple, we're experiencing simultaneous retrogrades of like planets. And like you said, it can feel intense. And I would agree too, especially if certain planets are going retrograde and activating certain parts of your natal chart. So these retrogrades that we experience every year can get a little more personal when they're actually touching or like impacting or influencing something in your natal chart. So you can actually feel these retrogrades a little more profoundly, if you will. And yeah, so I do have a slideshow because I always come packing with a
Love it.
slideshow. Yes. And it keeps me on track too, because we do have a lot we're navigating through today because of the multiple retrogrades. And so let me share my screen. Oh, send request. Okay. Let's see. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. And let's see, slideshow, play from current. Okay. So we are in the beginning parts, actually, of what I would call the 2025 retrograde season. And just to kind of go back over the planets that are retrograde or will be going retrograde, Pluto went retrograde on May 4th and will station direct, meaning he'll go forward in his orbit again on October 13th. Neptune will has gone retrograde actually on July 4th and then will go direct on December 10th. Saturn followed closely with its retrograde on July 12th and then will go direct on November 27th. And then Mercury will go retrograde tomorrow, starting tomorrow, and then we'll go direct on August 11th. And just again, retrograde planets just means like from our vantage point on Earth, if we looked up into the sky and could see the planets, it looks like these planets are going backwards in their orbit. And of course, they're not actually going backwards in their orbit. It's just the apparent motion of like, because we're on a moving planet and these planets are also moving. So it looks like they're going backwards. And so we'll get into more of like the astrological meanings of retrograde planets in a moment. But I just wanted to mention, because you also mentioned at the beginning too, that we're also getting dwarf planets in the mix as well with these retrogrades. So Eris, the goddess of discord and chaos, will go retrograde on July 22nd, and she'll be retrograde until January 11th, 2026. And then Chiron, the wounded healer, will go retrograde on July 30th, and then we'll go direct on January 2nd, 2026. And so as you can see here, July is a really big month for retrogrades. And that's typically what happens too. This is like a really big exclamation point on the year is like July and August. And so Chiron and Eris's current alignment is really rare, like where they're at in the sky and also where they're at in the tropical chart. And it's so rare that this configuration that they're making right now won't happen again for another 550 plus years. So this is not just like a once in a lifetime thing we're experiencing right now with just Eris and Chiron. This is like a multiple lifetime thing we're experiencing right now. And so a really big theme of Eris and Chiron's like movement together, like retrogrades and also traveling together when they're direct. A really big theme is moving through chaos leads to deeper healing. And I feel like we can really see the chaos that's taking place even in like our personal lives or even in the collective right now. And I do have a newsletter about this Chiron and Eris alignment titled The Goddess of Chaos Reveals the Path to Deeper Healing. It's on my Substack, and you can find it there at astroalohanews.substack.com if you're interested in finding out more. And then I just wanted to mention too, because I was like, what other planets are going retrograde? Because these aren't all the planets that are going retrograde this year. And so I noticed from November 9th until November 27th, we'll actually have 5 planets retrograde. And that'll be Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune in November. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar just to let them know that we are definitely in the retrograde season that leads into like the later part of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So November, that's kind of between Scorpius, Ophiuchus, and Sagittarius in.
Yes. Yes.
Is that all? Yeah, that's pretty much the shadow.
Yeah. So that's where the sun will be at. Mercury, I believe, will be in, oh gosh, I forgot to write all of these down. I should have done that beforehand. But Mercury, I think, is going retrograde in tropical. I think it's like starting in Sagittarius and going back into Scorpio. But in true sky, I think it like starts in Scorpio and then goes back into Libra in true sky. And then Jupiter is going retrograde. I believe it's in Cancer in tropical, but in true sky, I think it's still in Gemini, if I'm not mistaken. And then Saturn and Neptune are both retrograde in true sky in Pisces, and we'll get into that later today. And then Uranus will be retrograding from the last degrees of Gemini, or the beginning degrees of Gemini back into last degrees of Taurus in tropical. But then in true sky, he's still very much in Taurus. So there's a lot of weaving going on and lots of activation, as you can tell, because not only is it activating tropical signs, it's also activating stuff in the true sky. So we've got a lot happening, and it can feel really intense too, because a lot of these retrograde planets that we're experiencing, even though they go retrograde once a year, we're in a really rare moment with a lot of these retrogrades. So that can really intensify or really almost like activate people in where they might have not noticed retrograde seasons in the past. They might be experiencing and like noticing it now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's dive
All
deeper.
right, let's go. Okay, so just a few things about retrograde. So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all appear to go retrograde once a year for approximately 4 to 5 months. And then Mercury goes retrograde about 3 to 4 times a year for approximately 3 weeks. And this is like every year. And so having simultaneous retrogrades are common, especially with the outer planets, because the outer planets move so slowly. It's almost like we can like set our watch to the retrogrades. And however, the retrogrades of the planets Saturn through Pluto, especially in 2023 to 2026, are significant in tropical astrology. So all of these planets are retrograding between the last degrees of signs and the first degrees of signs in tropical astrology. And this is a big deal because just having one of those outer planets shift into new signs is a big deal in tropical astrology, but we're having all of them switch into new signs between 2025 and 2026. So this is like, yeah, another just highlighted, like rare moment that we're experiencing in the cosmos and tropical. And then also retrograde planets represent entering into the underworld, shadow work, going within, descension. So rather than like the ascension piece, retrograde planets are bringing us down and into the body. And then it's also really inviting us to slow down, take your time, self-reflect. And then also any retrograde planets are really seen as going against the grain because they're going not in their usual forward orbit. They're going in a different path, so to speak, for a while. So this is an invitation to tap into different perspectives, different ways of being, or even like deepening into your own authenticity and letting go of anything that's inauthentic. Yeah. And then also, when planets are retrograde, they are technically closer to Earth in their orbit, which can amplify these planetary energies. So, yeah. So if you're really feeling like a lot of things are happening going down, especially like I would say even starting last month to this month and like going forward, you could be tapping into
Yeah.
the retrograde season.
I love how you say that it's coming closer to Earth because Earth for me means the body. And so
Mm,
when it's like all of these retrograde, these planets are coming closer in this retrograde to Earth, it almost feels like to me the embodiment has to be like really deep, really
yes,
lived and be in integrity with that and you know, not be like on a surface level. Has to
right.
really be true, you
I
know.
love that. Yes. And also I loved this symbolism too, because obviously we're in the orbit or in the gravity of our sun, so our star. But when planets are retrograde, especially if multiple planets are retrograde and they're actually closer to the Earth in their orbit, symbolically for me, that actually shows that Earth has more of a gravitational pull than the sun at those times.
Mhm.
Even though obviously scientifically that's not correct, but symbolically that is like that's how I feel it. And that's why I feel like retrograde seasons, some people can really feel it, especially in a body sense, because all of these planets are coming closer to the planet we live on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really influencing us and encouraging us to be our own gravitational pull.
Hmm.
We anchor ourselves in the earth. This is where we live, this is where we belong, and we have to be able to live the human experience in
Yeah.
order to really live our truth, right? In the spiritual. So,
Exactly,
uh,
exactly. Yes. And then just a little note, so people can be born with planets in retrograde. So I would even say like people who have like 1 to 2 planets retrograde or people who have multiple planets retrograde. Sometimes retrograde seasons for people who were born with a lot of planets retrograde, they might not feel it as much, or they can sense it, but it feels almost like more like home than it does when planets are going forward because natally or like when they were born, these planets were actually going backward in their orbit or like appearing so. So I just wanted to mention that just in case people are curious. Because some people, especially we'll just use Mercury retrograde as an example. Sometimes people who were born with Mercury retrograde in their natal chart don't get as affected during Mercury retrogrades in, currently because it's like they have that in their natal chart. So they're a native with
I got this.
Mercury going retrograde. I got this. And that doesn't mean that that can't feel intense for
Yeah.
people, but it just feels like you can experience it differently than people who were born like with Mercury direct. Say.
Mhm. Mhm. That's good to know. It's good to
Mhm.
know because there are some people who are like, I don't feel anything. Like,
Yeah.
so how do you not feel this?
Right? It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, but it's just like it's just natural to them that this is the movement, and so they're
Hmm.
to that movement. That's really interesting. I didn't consider that before. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
And it's really funny too, just because sometimes people who have Mercury retrograde seem to get more done when it is going retrograde, whereas like some people are like, wait, like it's hard to move through things, and
Yeah.
the native Mercury retrograde people are like, what are you talking about? I got this. So yeah, so I just love to incorporate that in just in case people are interested in figuring out if they have
Hmm.
Mercury retrograde or just other retrogrades in their chart.
Wow, beautiful.
Okay. All right, so let's dive in. So the first planet up is Neptune. And this is the image of Neptune from NASA. So I just love to, again, incorporate the actual planets in the slides that we're going to talk about. So Neptune is named after the Roman god of the sea. And as you can see here, I mean, what a great name to name a planet after a sea god, because it looks like the ocean to me. And so Neptune has a 164-year orbit and spends about 14 years in one sign. And it goes retrograde once a year for approximately 5 months. And then I just wanted to include this piece too. So Neptune governs the sign of Pisces. And so if you have any planets or any prominent placements, as in like the ascendant or midheaven in Pisces, you may be especially attuned to when Neptune goes retrograde or direct. It doesn't matter the sign he's in. Sometimes people can really feel that Neptune shift when they have a lot of Piscean planets or placements in their natal chart. And so some Neptune gifts in astrology and what they represent, it's unconditional love, dreams, intuition, mysticism, inner spirituality, imagination, creativity, surrendering control, and flow are
Makes a
really
lot of sense.
are really big key themes of like Neptune gifts. And
Mm.
then some Neptune shadow is the dissolution of boundaries, ungroundedness, avoidance, escapism, bypassing, addictions to numb out, and confusion, illusion, and denial. So
Mm.
those are some really heavy shadow aspects of Neptune. And also these qualities of Neptune's gifts and shadows can actually be applied to the Pisces sign as
I was just
well.
going to say that. Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds familiar with Pisces. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's really interesting when we start to take into account like just kind of how heavy some of this like Neptunian Piscean shadow is. And the best way I've ever heard it described is from my primary astrology teacher, Divine Harmony. She said, so Pisces and therefore Neptune represent like some of the brightest light in the zodiac, and therefore to bring balance, it also represents some of the darkest shadow. So
Hmm.
we're really like navigating through the shadow and light portal when Neptune starts to make his shifts backward or even when he starts to go forward in his movement. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Look at that.
Yes. Okay. So more on Neptune's retrograde. So again, Neptune is retrograde from July 4th, 2025 to December 10th, 2025. And when Neptune is retrograde, it signals a time to go within and to determine if the voice you're listening to is your own or if it's someone else's. Because Neptune and Pisces are so intuitive and so psychic. They can feel everything. It's almost like we keep saying telepathic. So it's like it can almost feel like there's a lot of telepathy going on with this particular planetary energy in that sign. And so sometimes when we pick up on other things, we don't realize that that voice that we're listening to might not even be our own. And so having tools or even being able to go and find a place to go into stillness to even try to discern if what you're listening to or what you hear is your own voice or if it's not is a really big piece of Neptune going retrograde. Also, being aware of behavior patterns that can lead to avoidance or escapism, especially because we're going through such a chaotic time globally that sometimes we can get into feelings of overwhelm or depression, or there can be just a lot of intensity in the feeling department. And so sometimes in order to bring relief to all of these really big feelings we feel, we can go into those behavior patterns that help us try to like eliminate that or like at least downplay it a little bit, and that can lead us into like some of those more behavior patterns that kind of lead us into avoidance, escapism, or even the addiction piece. And
Mhm.
addiction doesn't necessarily always have to mean like drugs and alcohol and things. Like addiction can be like addicted
Social
to
media.
social media, to
Yeah.
chaos, to
AI.
food, AI, all of those things where
Yeah.
it like helps, it's like taps us out of our body and into something else. And so just being really aware of or like trying to wake up in those moments when we might be in those behavior patterns that are leading us into, yeah, avoidance or escapism or addiction. And then also Neptune, anytime Neptune is really prominent in astrology, taking good care of your physical body is huge. So energy levels can really fluctuate and also intensely when Neptune is prominent in astrology. So if your body is telling you to rest or it needs to rest, listen, because Neptune is also really associated with sleep and with
Oh,
energy levels. And so when Neptune's retrograde, that means he's moving slower in his orbit and he's also going backwards against the grain. So there can be a lot more of, those moments of like, man, I really need a nap right now, or I really need to like lay down. And so people might be feeling that, especially in like the last few weeks. And that could, there's a lot of reasons as to why we could feel that, but Neptune retrograde can definitely amplify that as well.
it's
Yes.
funny you say that because one of our Sisterhood of Mood Council members, Helen, was saying that she was taking like these long naps and sleeping really long hours.
Mm.
And so, Helen, if you're watching this, this is for you.
Yes. And good for you for listening too. To your, it's like, oh, I need to go to sleep and like get decent rest. So that's really key in order to help move through this Neptune retrograde. And then also allowing yourself to process your emotions is huge rather than stuffing or repressing, because it can actually lead to clarity. Because again, some Neptune shadow is illusion or confusion. And sometimes that illusion or confusion is actually activated from us not processing what's coming up.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of like establishing your feminine energy here, a lot of groundedness, a lot of discernment to
Yeah.
provide that clarity,
Mm-hmm.
being in that gravitational pull of ourselves so we can anchor in
Yeah.
into the earth, into the body, and create space because we need space to really allow this all to fall in and land.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, Instead of because when we're distracting ourselves and avoiding, we're constantly doing something.
Yep.
We do that, right? To like avoid whatever we need to look at.
Yep.
And so encouraging us all to really tap into our feminine, our motherly energy. How can she hold us? How can she be there for us and give us maybe some guidance and instruction on how to let this all just fall into place for us and listen to that
Yep.
instruction to move it after that.
Yep.
But take
Exactly.
that space for sure.
Exactly. And I love that you said like giving yourself space. That's a huge just key theme across the board during any retrograde season is to create space in your life, to be able to rest, to be able to adapt, to be able to, be flexible when things that don't go necessarily as expected. We have room to process it and pivot if needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then just to go in on tropical, I know I'm mentioning tropical astrology a lot, but this is a lot of the collective is very tapped into the tropical astrology or astrological charts. And so it makes it really real for a lot of the collective. And so I just wanted to mention this because, again, this is such a rare thing that's happening in tropical astrology. So in tropical astrology, Neptune is retrograding from the first few degrees of Aries. So he went retrograde, I think, at like I think it's like 1 degree Aries. And then it's going to backtrack or retrograde into the last degree or the 29th degree of Pisces. So
Mm.
the first and last degrees of any sign is super significant. But the first degree of Aries and the last degree of Pisces are even more so because these are the last and first degrees of the entire zodiac wheel. We're like at the beginning and ending. We're at the alpha and omega right now.
Wow. Closing that circuit.
Closing that circuit. Yes.
Wow.
And so we're really in this theme of dissolution of the old. And because it's Neptune, which is dreaming, and dreaming of the new are like major themes we can be experiencing right now.
Oof.
And then also, just if people are curious, if you have any planets in your birth chart in like the early degrees of Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, or the late degrees of Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, or Sagittarius, you are or will soon be undergoing a Neptune transit. And we kind
Hi,
of mentioned
it's me.
hello. Yes. And so with Neptune transits, it's almost similar to Pluto transits, where because Pluto, we mentioned it in our Pluto talk on your podcast too, where Pluto and Neptune are some of the slowest moving planets we've got in our solar system. And because they're so slow moving, when they do activate something in our chart, it's once in a lifetime. So
Yeah.
if you're undergoing any Pluto transits right now or any Neptune transits, these are once in a lifetime.
Mm.
And so Neptune transits are designed to illuminate how you work with uncertainty and the unknown. And the question here that came up for me is, can you learn to use more than just your eyes to see through the fog? Because Neptune is really geared toward inner spirituality, being able to see like almost like psychically rather than just with our physical eyeballs. We like
Yeah.
Neptune's asking us to see with more than just our eyes. And then also, can you let go of control and trust in the mystery of life unfolding?
That's been a huge challenge for me. Like we were just talking about that before. Um,
Yep.
I've always, I've been always showing up for myself and my family. And for me to like, I'm leaving to the Big Island next week and I'm leaving my son and my husband behind. And that's a huge thing for me, like
Yeah.
leaving my family behind because I always feel like I'm there as the kind of like anchor for the family. And so it's like, what happens when the anchor's gone? Do they sail? Like, then my
Mm,
husband's like, just go, just let go of control. We're gonna be fine. We're just gonna have fun and
yes.
enjoy yourself. Like go and experience what you need to. And like with the whole thing with the unknown too, it's my Virgo-ness, right? Always wants a plan.
Hmm.
I need a plan. I need to organize. I need to see what's going to happen. But I've learned to tap more into my moon in Cancer to really feel more of what's coming through and listening to the call. And so, even if there were so many thoughts about going to the Big Island and all the fears started coming up and the unknowns of what's going to happen, my Cancer moon was like, "You need to go because there's a call there for you. So listen to that." And I felt it in my body. And I think
Mm,
like when you say, don't just see through your eyeballs, it's
hmm.
like the intuitiveness for me is always felt through my body,
Yes.
like the contractions, the openness, and
Mhm.
that for me helps my third eye really
Yes.
project what I need to see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you're mentioning, not seeing just through the physical
Mhm.
eyes.
Yes. Yeah. And Neptune is a great guide for that. And so if you are, again, experiencing this Neptune transit that's activating any of these signs, it is really dissolving those old patterns of I have to be in control. I have to take everything on. I've got to do all these things. And then Neptune's like, well, do you? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And so, like, I almost see it. I think I might have used this. I can't even remember if I used this kind of imagery during our Pluto talk. But like, essentially, like, you're on a riverbank and the river is flowing, and you're trying to like stay clinging to, the side of the riverbank because it's like, no, I got to control all the things. And then Neptune's coming through, and Neptune energy is flow. And so
Mhm.
it's like, how about what would happen if you actually let go of the side and
Mm.
actually just started flowing in? And it's not just any sort of like river that we're flowing in. It's like our own flow
Yeah.
that's like synced up with the universal flow. And
Mhm.
so it's like when we stop actually fighting that flow, Neptune's retrograde can actually really be a deep support for us to just like trust the unfolding and just know that we're being, yeah, floated downstream to exactly where we're meant to be.
Yeah, it's the real deep faith in yourself and the divine will, I think.
Yes. Hmm.
Kind of
Exactly.
similar too with Pluto, I'm finding.
Yes. Isn't it interesting that Neptune and Pluto are these really big pillars of like, in astrology. And so Neptune is considered actually the last planet in our solar system. And then when we get to Pluto,
Mm.
we consider it a planet still in astrology, but
Yeah.
in the scientific community, it's seen as a dwarf planet. And so Neptune's almost like this guardian between the collective planets and then the deeper unknown. And Pluto's in that unknown space where
Wow.
it's like, yeah. So we're experiencing Neptune and Pluto going backwards in their orbit. And so this is really helping us to see where we, yeah, need to let go
Yeah.
so that we're not just so bogged down with the past.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could see that with a heaviness in the shoulders feeling that I've been feeling.
Yes.
Let go.
Let go. Yes.
Surrender.
And that's definitely a Neptune theme for
Mm.
sure. And then also Neptune in the true sky is actually in Pisces. And so Pisces, again, Neptune and Pisces go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So all of those things that I just mentioned are amplified because they both are connected. And so really finding that flow, really going into some of those gifts again, like going into unconditional love, going into your dreaming space, really connecting in with your intuition, mysticism is also a fun part of this Neptune Piscean energy we've got going on. And then really developing or tapping into your inner spirituality, letting your imagination flow through. Creativity also can come through as well. And then, yeah, that surrender control. And so we can flow is
Yeah.
really big.
Yeah, I love how these retrogrades force us to come back into our alignment, our right relationship with ourselves, because if we don't address the dissolution of boundaries, the ungroundedness, then we're not coming from that place of love. We're not coming from that place of truth that is essentially inside of us. And so this Neptune energy can be so beautiful when we just allow this kind of transformation, alchemy to happen within this retrograde.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Love that.
Imagine the dreams that are going to come from this.
Oh, yes. I love that. Yes. So actually, it's really interesting. So dreams as in like dreaming, like the things that we would like to bring into form, but also pay attention to your dreams that you're having when you're sleeping. Can also really be big too, because when Neptune retrograde, especially if you're having a Neptune transit, there can be a lot that's coming up from the subconscious or the unconscious, because Pisces and Neptune's rules that unconscious area as well in like depth psychology and psychology too.
Interesting.
So.
I've been having a lot of dreams. So
Same. And I also think partly I've noticed I've been having a lot more dreams and they correlate to a lot of the solar flares. So when the solar flares happen, I
yeah.
dream a lot more.
Yeah.
And I started knowing this correlation. I was like, okay, there's something to that. And then add in the fact that Neptune's retrograde, I feel like there can be a lot of heightened things that's coming through the dream space right now.
Yeah. Amplified.
Amplified for sure. And then using discernment into like what's actually a message for you versus like something that you might have tapped into that was like, oh, that was strange. It might not have been for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, really using discernment in that piece.
I think what came up for me in my dream space was a lot of addressing vulnerability, and that's also come up in my shoulder pain.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
if anyone else is feeling vulnerable, it's okay.
Yes, you're right on time.
Yeah, you're right on time.
Right on time.
It's more intimate. Let's get there.
Yes. Yeah. So any questions about Neptune retrograde or anything like that before I go into the next planet?
I think it's pretty clear. Yeah.
Okay. Like we got it. Thanks. All right, moving it right along into Saturn. So
Saturn.
So this is Saturn's image from NASA as well. So all of the images that I have of the planets are from NASA. So Saturn is named after the Roman god of agriculture, sowing, and seed, which is so interesting because you just mentioned, you know, the Sisterhood of Mu and the planting of seeds and things in a huge garden, all of that. And Saturn's Greek equivalent is the Titan god Cronus or Kronos, who is the god of time. So it's interesting because Saturn also is linked to Kronos. So Saturn also can be connected to time itself.
Wow.
Yeah. So Saturn has a 29-year orbit and spends about 2.5 years in one sign. And he goes retrograde once a year for about 4 to 5 months. And so Saturn governs the sign of Capricorn. And if you have any planets or prominent placements, again, like a ascendant or a midheaven or descendant or IC, you in Capricorn, you may be especially attuned to when Saturn goes retrograde or direct.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
This is rising. Yeah.
And so it would really be interesting too, because with Saturn retrograde, it doesn't matter the sign he's in, even if it's not aspecting anything in Capricorn or anything like that. Whenever Saturn does go retrograde, I've noticed people who have a big prominence in Capricorn can actually feel it on a deeper level when Saturn switches directions.
Yeah. Look at the shadow and Saturn control.
Right. I always thought it was funny because like I couldn't unsee it once I saw it. It almost looks like Saturn's wearing a hat.
So it's a sun hat.
It's a hat, yeah. It's like in the sun, like in the garden. Yeah.
It's so true. It reminds me of my grandma with her little sun hat in the garden.
I love
that. Oh, it's cute.
Like now I can't unsee it. Okay. Yeah. With Saturn, so Saturn gifts in astrology are structure, boundaries, inner authority, reality, practicality, self-mastery, integrity, discipline, endings, and then knows the importance of work and rest. So sometimes in that shadow aspect of Saturn and Capricorn, we can just be hyper focused on the work and forget about the rest.
Yeah.
And then Saturn shadow represents rigidity, control, restriction, expectations, dogma, overwork, feelings of being burdened by a lot of the responsibility. The inner critic is also can be connected to Saturn, and then holds on too long. So where Saturn's gift is endings, the Saturn shadow is not letting go of the thing that's ending.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear.
It's so fascinating because that's similar to Pluto.
Yeah,
Pluto's like,
exactly.
that Pluto, that's the completions, the endings. And
Yeah.
like, how about letting go of the thing that's crumbling and trusting the thing that's crumbling? So
Mhm.
with Saturn, it's like trusting the thing that's ending as
Yeah.
well.
Wow.
And what's so fascinating about Saturn and Neptune being retrograde, like at a similar time of the year, is that Saturn, just like where Neptune is like considered the last planet of our solar system before we go into like the greater unknown in our solar system. So it's like kind of seen as like a gatekeeper between the transpersonal or collective planets and then going into the great unknown. Saturn also holds that energy too, because Saturn is the last visible planet we can see with the naked eye
Yeah.
before we get into the transpersonal planets. So he's another guardian or gatekeeper between these realms. And so we have Saturn and Neptune both going retrograde at the same time. And they're both representing this gatekeepery piece, but not a gatekeeper as in like, you can't cross here, but it's like actually asking us to be accountable. And it's asking us questions on, okay, what are the next steps that we need to take?
Yeah.
And is it in alignment
Mhm.
with our life, who we are, and who we're meant to be?
Yeah, I think it feels like boundaries for ourselves
Yes.
too. Like
Hmm.
how much are we pushing ourselves? How much
Yes.
do we need to give ourselves space?
Right. Yeah.
And it's okay to say no to things.
Yes. One of my favorite memes that I saw back in like, I think it was like 2012 at the beginning of like memes coming onto the scene, I think, was no is a complete sentence. That
Mm,
was like one of my favorite things that I heard.
love it.
Because I used to over explain. I used to like try to like make people feel better if I did say no, because I would feel guilty and all of these things.
Yeah.
But Saturn comes through and it was like, no is a complete sentence. Like I
Yeah.
don't have to explain it. No is no.
Yeah. I love that about my son because he just goes, no.
So does my sisters.
I'm
Like,
like,
and no.
so
And
that's
I,
what I said.
yeah, and I've always told them that I deeply admired that because I did not come with that
Yeah.
ingrained in me at
Same.
all. And they just are naturally like, if they don't want to do something, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's like you don't have to people please.
Yes. Hmm.
And you also don't lose yourself uh,
Yeah.
when you say no. When it
Right.
feels like a no, say no. And
Right.
I know a lot of my friends who go through this and they know their boundaries, but do they enforce it? No.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
so it's encouraging us to really, yes, know the boundaries, but also enforce the boundaries so they're actually practical in your life so people
Yeah.
see it and believe it.
Right.
Because when you just idealize your boundaries,
Hmm.
actually, be that kind of gatekeeper of yourself,
Yes.
everyone's going to access you because they're
Hmm.
used to you saying no, but then no, but
No,
no.
but
There's
okay. Yeah.
like, no, it's just
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. No, it's no.
God is the gatekeeper.
Right. And it's also really telling too. It can really help you discern like who you want to be in your life and who you don't.
Yeah.
Because the people who have an issue with you saying no, maybe dive deeper into seeing if that's a relationship that you want to keep.
Yeah. Is it like a
Life.
convenience relationship? Are they taking advantage of
Right.
me? But what is this relationship for?
Right. Yeah.
It's a huge
And
one.
the
I know so
people,
many
yeah.
people going through that. So please
Yeah.
discern.
Yes. And the people who are meant for you and really support you in your no's and your yeses, those, in my opinion, for me at least, are my people.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Me too,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So this Saturn retrograde is definitely helping us discern that as
Yeah.
well. Yes.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. So, and also I forgot to mention, there was like just going back really quick. There was this glyph over here that I put on Neptune's slide. So this is Neptune's glyph. So if you see your chart online and you see like a little, trident, that means it's Neptune.
Mhm. Yeah.
So mention that. And then this is Saturn's glyph. So if you see Saturn's glyph too on the chart, that's what that represents. And then going to Saturn's retrograde. So Saturn is retrograde from July 12th, 2025 to November 27th, 2025. And so when Saturn is retrograde, it signals a time for refinement, reassessing your dreams or your goals, and also even reevaluating your schedule is huge. So my big thing with Saturn's retrograde is like, are you making time for the things that you love? Not just the things that I have to do because I'm responsible for it or because like I need to do this thing for work, like actually incorporating the things that make you come alive, that like lead to
Yeah.
like inspiration and light you up. So that's also a very important piece at looking at your schedule and discerning what gets to take up space on your schedule and then letting go of
Yeah.
what doesn't.
When I feel into that, it has to be hell yeah or it's a no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
what I
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
feel.
And then also being aware of biting off more than you can chew right now is huge because Saturn's like, oh, I can do all the things. And then when he's retrograde, it's like, oh, but like I might not have as much energy as I normally do. So maybe like really, yeah, reassess what you have time for and what you don't. And
Yeah.
then also Saturn retrogrades underscore prioritizing what is important to you and simplifying. There's a really big simplification thing that's happening when Saturn comes into the picture.
I was
Because
feeling that for sure.
yeah,
Delegation and simplification was the two words that came up for me for this.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And Saturn's really about letting go of excess,
Mhm.
like because we can get bogged down into the excess of it all. And so Saturn comes in and just is like, again, use your discernment. What do you need and what do you not? And like start to really declutter your energy, your physical space, whatever needs to be decluttered. This is a really great time to even just pinpoint and hone in on that when Saturn's retrograde. And then also just like how Neptune is connected to, energy levels in the body, Saturn influences the immune system. So when Saturn is prominent in astrology, taking good care of your physical health is key. So we're coming back to the whole physical health thing. And so really focusing on the small practical steps that you can take every day that lead to good health is really big with Saturn, like transits or even Saturn retrograde. So that could be examples are like gently moving your body, taking your vitamins, staying hydrated, getting good sleep, etc. Doesn't have to be a huge big thing that like, we're I gotta go to the gym on this thing, I gotta do it all this way.
Yeah.
Saturn's retrograde, it's like, did you drink water today though?
They should take care of your basic needs.
Yes.
Your
Right.
survival needs.
So he's all about getting very practical because we can
Yeah.
have very lofty goals. And
Yeah.
Saturn's very goal oriented. But when he's retrograde, things move at a slower pace. So if like, say, I'm just going to use the gym reference again. So if like, say, the gym isn't on our normal schedule, but we're trying to make ourselves go and trying to force ourselves to go and work out or whatever, Saturn retrograde, it might be a little more difficult, you may find, to try and keep it up consistently. So
Yeah.
just again, simplifying and coming back to the basics.
Yeah, maybe just stretch at home or do some yoga or dance or listen to music or something.
Right. You don't even have to leave the house, or you can just
Yeah.
walk around your block. Like you
Yeah,
don't
go
even
for a
have to go that
walk.
far. You
Yeah.
don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think, the with some, and my own feeling anyway, is
Hmm.
trying to force myself to go to the gym and
Hmm.
seeing that consistency and that like
Yes.
the rigidity of the Saturn,
Yes.
shadow. It's like, oh, but I have to show up. If I don't show up, then I'm a failure, So it's like
Yeah.
allowing yourself the grace to be like, hey, I'm still showing up, but in a different way. Like I
Yes.
don't have to show up like this all the time. I'm giving myself space to give myself some variation.
Hmm.
And I think, people might mistake consistency for doing the same thing all the time, but I look at consistency as just committing to showing up for your well-being.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And that just gets to the pico of it. Like this is like just like at the center. Like we can just simplify this thing down to its basic foundations. And that's really like a Saturn energetic quality is to get down to the truth that's at the heart.
Mhm.
So we don't have all this excess stuff going through
Yeah.
our minds, our bodies, yeah, and our environments.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then as a note, so if you have any planets, and it's going to be funny because you're going to notice that these are the same signs that I mentioned for Neptune.
I saw
So
that.
yes. So if you have any planets at the early degrees of Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, or the late degrees of Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, or Sagittarius, you are or soon will be undergoing a Saturn transit. And these transits offer opportunities for you to speak up and clarify your boundaries, tap into and trust your own authority, and then also lean into patience if things seem to be moving slowly or like not going according to plan.
Hmm.
And so, as you will see, Neptune and Saturn are actually aligned right now. And that's why they're activating the same signs
Wow.
in astrology.
Yeah.
So if you do have any planets in these signs, you're undergoing a simultaneous Saturn and Neptune transit.
Hmm.
And just to like even further like go into that a little bit further, if you have multiple planets like at the early degrees of Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, or multiple planets at the late degrees of Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, or Sagittarius, not only are you having a simultaneous Saturn Neptune transit with these planets, but you're having like back-to-back planetary transits. So just for me, for example, I have a lot of stuff at the late degrees of Sag, early degrees of Cap, and the last degrees of Gemini. So I'm actually undergoing 5 different
Wow.
Saturn and Neptune transits right now. So 5 different Saturn transits, 5 different Neptune transits, all happening at the same time.
I think I have at least three or something.
Yeah, it's just like, dude,
Like, oh.
that's a lot. Yeah, and so just to like kind of even clarify this even more. So Saturn transits happen every 29 to 30 years, and major Neptune transits only happen once in a lifetime. So really being gentle with yourself right now as we're navigating this, because we are really navigating our own reality shifts.
Yeah, I really do feel like I'm going through my own personal transition right
Yeah.
now. But I also feel like the collective is going through its own transition. Like Earth herself
For
is going
sure.
through a real transition. I feel like she's going into another phase of her life, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting when we start navigating at a personal level and see how it's like also being like, amplified in the collective as well, because then that's like this multi-layered thing that we're navigating through.
Yeah, we're all part of that one energy, right?
Right. Welcome to Earth. I mean, welcome to being human. I feel like that's just the name of the game. But when we're undergoing such personal transits and they're all like happening and it's like once in a lifetime and it's once in a lifetime and like, the collective too, it's just a lot. And so really taking time to come down and in, to find stillness, to go put your feet on the earth, to just take a deep breath is just huge in order to come back into your body. Yes.
Mhm. That breath felt really good.
Yes.
Take a deep breath,
Yep,
everybody.
take a deep breath. And it's just, again, that's like a simplification of like Saturn energy is to like, in order to come back down into the body, is just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Even just one good breath,
Yeah,
can
that
like
one
really
good breath.
help to
Perfect.
shift things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Loosens the
sounds like,
spine, loosens the spine, loosens the contractions in your body. It allows you to flow, allows you to see clearly what needs to move. So
mhm.
breathe, people, meditate, breathe. Like I know like when you hear the word meditation, people are like, I don't know how to meditate. Literally just close your eyes, take
Right.
breaths, like
Right.
follow your breath. That's it.
Yes. Yes. And also too, I love because especially if we're having Aries getting activated, Aries is very active. And so sometimes with Aries placements, especially with people I've given that I've talked to who have a lot of Aries placements, sometimes it's really hard for them to like sit down and close their eyes.
Yeah.
And so I started to look at how Aries people, because my husband has a lot of Aries placements too, on how he actually connects into or gets into a meditative space is actually when he starts moving his body. So
Yeah.
when he's a paddler, and so when he gets into a canoe and he paddles for long distances, that's him going into a meditative state.
Yeah, that's true. Like
And
movement
so
meditations, runners do that too. They get
yep,
into like a trance, you know.
yep, yep. And so that's helpful in being able to clear a lot of energetic things. That's moving the body. So this again is to let go of even our like ways that we would think meditation needs to look and realize that there's actually different ways that we can get into that meditative space. For me, it's actually washing dishes.
Really?
Like just doing, I really don't like washing dishes, just to be clear. But it's like that repetitive movement
Yeah.
helps me to get into it, like out of the logical mind, and I start getting downloads. It's very strange,
Yeah.
but
For me, it's like the shower or driving. Like
yes, shower or washing dishes.
it's amazing.
Exactly. Yes. So even tapping into moments like that too can be really
Yeah.
interesting when we've got Saturn and Neptune activating that Aries
Good.
placement. Yeah. Okay. So now I just wanted to bring this up just to show you. This is from masteringthezodiac.com. So this is just like a sky view of like where like Neptune and Saturn were at when Saturn went retrograde on July 12th. And as you can see here, this here is the Pisces constellation, and here the solid color, I guess it's like more maroon, is like the entire Pisces sign. And as you can see, here's Neptune, and then Saturn's right directly underneath it. So they're pretty much like in this connected space right now and will be going into 2026. So we're in this very interesting Saturn-Neptune alignment. And Saturn being that planet of reality and Neptune being that planet of dreams, it's
Mm,
such a fascinating energy to come
balance.
together. Yeah. And so really being aware of what you're thinking, what you're dreaming, where your consciousness is at, because Saturn brings that dream state into form.
Yeah.
So just being very conscious of what it is that we're focused on can be very helpful in being able
Yeah.
to, yeah, experience what we would like to experience.
Yeah. What are you making real?
Yes.
What are you designing?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a really good question because Saturn's like, what are we designing? Because he's
I
like,
love that.
yeah, where's the plan? Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I like
And
your
then
but what's the plan?
what's the plan? And then Neptune's like, but I'm dreaming. And so, like, really finding
Yeah.
that balance point of allowing ourselves to dream, where Saturn isn't like, get to the finish
Mhm.
line and make it happen. Or where sometimes when we have this dream, or it can be a really big dream and we feel a little fear around bringing it into form, Saturn comes in and was like, but it'll be okay. We can get
Yeah.
this done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been really nourishing for me in my life because I am a big dreamer, but I also make them real. And so for me, like what I do is, and this could be helpful for some people who don't really aren't maybe more versed in grounding their dreams into
Hmm.
reality, is write it all down, like brainstorm it, put all the ideas out there, and
Hmm.
then start to pick out the pieces that make sense and put them together. And that creates that structure. And then you're like, okay, well, can I do this in a certain timeline, or do I need more space for this? What do I actually have right now that I can actually attain and maintain?
Love that.
And that will give you a lot more clarity and show you that it's so possible to make your
Hmm.
dreams into reality. And you complete that, and then you're like, wow, I did that, and I forgot to do this, but you celebrated it.
Yes. Yeah, that Saturn Capricorn piece that's usually forgotten is because I really determined this for myself, honestly, because I have a lot of Cap too in my chart, where it was like, well, I don't just believe it's just work all the time. There has to be a balance point in
Yeah,
astrology. It's all about balance.
yeah.
So Saturn Capricorn to me also represents celebration, or like giving yourself a pat on the back, or just being like, huh,
Yeah,
taking a moment. Look what I did. Yeah.
yeah. I had to do that the other day.
Yes.
Did you celebrate? No, you didn't. Okay,
It's
do
like, oh,
something.
okay, yes, let me do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so that and that can also be lay more, stepping stones for you to achieve your next thing,
Mhm.
in a lighter way, where it's not like, oh God, now
Another
I'm gonna
thing.
finish
Yeah.
that thing. I'm gonna slog and do this thing. Yeah, so that's where the tediousness kind of comes out of it, and Saturn's like, oh, but we can celebrate too.
Yeah. And you're like avoiding, not avoiding, but you're not putting yourself into like burnout or exhaustion.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
allowing yourself the space to like enjoy the fruits of your labor,
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Not many
Yeah.
of us can do that. I am one of them. So I have to
And
remind.
remember, Saturn is the Roman god of agriculture. So, like, he's out there, watering all of these seeds. And then once they come up to harvest, like, he's not like, leave
Mm.
it. And then all the fruit rots. And then he just like goes on to the next thing. Right.
Yeah.
So
Cook
he
some
even,
delicious meals.
yeah, you know what? Look at all your hard work and all the seeds that you planted that you helped nourish and grow,
Yeah.
and celebrate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All
Mm.
right. All right. Moving on to Mercury. Okay.
Hey,
So,
girl.
girl. So
Or
Mercury,
guy.
actually, Mercury is the only planet or planetary energy that's linked to androgyny. So
Oh.
it's neither male or female. And so I always thought that was interesting, having done the Aloha Ma
Yeah.
centers. Yeah.
Mm.
So with that, this is again an image or a picture from NASA of Mercury. I loved this shot. The first time I saw it, I was like, dude, what? So cool.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
yes. So Mercury is named after the Roman god of communication, and Mercury's Greek equivalent is Hermes, who is the messenger of the gods. And Mercury has an 88-day orbit and takes about a year to go through all of the signs. And he can spend anywhere between 2 weeks up to a month in one sign. And Mercury goes retrograde 3 to 4 times a year for approximately 3 weeks. And Mercury governs the signs of Gemini and Virgo. So if you have any planets or prominent placements in these signs, you may be especially attuned to when Mercury goes retrograde or direct.
We retrograding, sis.
Yes.
Like both of us.
And I think this is amazing too, because, all of these prominent placements with these retrograde planets, it sounds like we're just like going down the list for you too, and for
Right?
me, where it's like, wow, okay, this is really like spotlighting a lot of very important aspects and of our lives right now with these particular retrogrades. So, some Mercury gifts are communication, definitely perception, meaning that mercurial energy can pick up on more than just words. It's reading energy, it's reading vibes, it's reading body language, it's reading all kinds of things that go and move beyond the language of it all.
Be beyond the bullshit.
Yes, can totally tap into it. Also, Mercury is very associated with intelligence, and also it gathers, shares, and digests information. And it's really interesting to look at that too, because the gathering and the sharing of information, gathering is more Gemini-like, and the sharing of information is also kind of like Gemini Virgo, but the digesting of information is definitely Virgo. Because Gemini can just stay in the gathering and the sharing, and it's like, but have you processed what you just gathered? And so Virgo is that reminder to move through what you just
Mm.
gathered
Yeah,
until it's easier to find those deeper meanings.
Virgo for me feels so much like this digestion piece, so much of the integration has to happen. I feel like maybe that's why Virgo's the longest
Hmm.
or the most spacious of
Yeah.
the zodiacs,
Hmm.
because it needs that time. Like I know after a gathering, for me, I need my space. Like I need to just kind of like let it all land. Like what happened there? How do I
Yeah,
feel? And what
exactly.
I learn, because I'm always picking up, like you said, like you pick up intuitively on things, you pick up energy, vibration, words, like, and for me, it allows me to just assess
Yep.
what happened, but also let it like just like be.
Yep.
Also, because I don't want it to linger too long, because
Exactly.
like let
Let
it
it go.
the body, yeah.
Yes. And that's an important piece of Virgo too, because Virgo is one of the four signs called a mutable sign. And the mutable signs are actually, they're the mutable signs are Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. And mutable meaning these are the signs that are linked to seasons. So these are the signs that are the ending to seasons. And so any mutable signs, Virgo being one of them, really has this undercurrent of energy of letting things go, of
Yeah.
like bringing things to a completion before you step into your next phase. And so that digesting of information and then letting it go is a really big piece of Gemini, but especially Virgo, because there's this deeper process that's happening. That's not saying Gemini isn't deep. Just want to mention that. It's just that when we see these two signs working together, especially if they're governed by the same planet,
Mhm.
there's this synergy that's happening between the
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, just I feel like Virgo has this really great skill of that groundedness,
Mhm.
making sure it's being integrated
Yeah.
like deeply,
Yeah.
before you move on to the next
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
holding you account. It's like your accountability partner.
Yes.
I feel like that's how I've been for all my Gemini friends.
Yes, and Gemini is so, also really great too because it's able to go into all of these different directions
Yes.
and get information from like all points of the universe. And
Yeah.
then we're bringing it back, and then what? Like,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like Gemini people intrigue me because I'm like, wow, you went there?
whoa.
My Virgo's like, I was staying in here. Gemini's like, what? And it's so fun. I love being around Gemini people because it's fun for me.
Yes,
You
yes,
know?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I just wanted to mention too, actually wasn't going to bring this in, but I'll bring it in now. So there are four main asteroid goddesses or asteroids that are named after goddesses. And there has been some debate in the astrological community that says that it's a little strange that Mercury is one of the rulers of Virgo. And honestly, it makes sense because in ancient times, that's kind of how it got associated. But there is a I guess like an idea, or some astrologers actually see Virgo as being ruled or governed by one of the asteroid goddesses. And I feel like it really fits too. And so the asteroid goddess is Vesta, and Vesta is the goddess of hearth and home.
Mhm.
And so there's this definite connection to home, to coming into the sacredness of it all.
Yeah.
And Vesta is also back in ancient times. Vesta was the like at her temples, her priestesses were the Vestal virgins. And Virgo is also called the Virgin as well. And
Yeah.
so virgin in ancient times does not mean what it means today. It actually means belonging to oneself. And
Wow.
so there's this piece to Virgo that's linked to Vesta and the Virgin, which is sovereignty, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh, wow.
Yes. So there is this deep feminine connection too to Virgo, even like astrologically, because Virgo is the maiden constellation, which
Yeah.
is linked to the goddess. And
Yeah.
so having the rulership of Vesta with Virgo makes a lot of sense to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not to negate Mercury's like influence with
Yeah.
Virgo, but just to start
I
to
feel
bring.
like that makes more sense as someone who is a tropical Virgo. That makes a lot
Mhm.
of sense to me. And when we did Aloha Ma, like the temple meditation that we did, it was a home for me. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Temple of the home.
Of course.
That's where I feel most aligned.
Yes. And so if we think of it in that way as well, so if you have any planets at the last degrees of Virgo, you're getting those Saturn transits and those Neptune transits. And so one of those things that could be dissolving is our belief that we're not sovereign, our belief that we're, we have to conform to a role or that we aren't, in our power already. And so
Yeah.
that can also be coming down and
Yeah.
out.
And that, when I talk about the home, like the temple of the home for me means the body
Hmm.
first, and then also the outside of the body, which can be your physical home.
Yes.
But for
Hmm.
me, the body is really the home that stores our soul.
Yeah.
And when we allow our soul the space to feel safe in our home, we
Hmm.
can actually be moving in this world in that right relationship and alignment with even the divine energy
Yeah.
that surrounds us all. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So just wanted to mention that for people who have really prominent Virgo placements in their charts, even in true sky or in tropical.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then now going to actually, did I even finish the Mercury glyphs? So it was digesting information, and then also expression is very deeply like important to Mercury. And then also it rules travel. So like traveling to specific, places more locally is kind of how it's seen. And then Jupiter rules like the more like, extensive travel abroad in
Great.
astrology. But there is this link to travel and to movement around either the astral planes or our dream space or even just the physical planet can be linked to Mercury. And then Mercury shadow it can be very much in the head and not in the heart. Overly analytical or too reliant on the linear, and it might not listen. It doesn't listen to either the self or to others. And then also, there can be a fear of depth. So it likes to stay on the surface because if we go too deep, it's like, oh, yeah, that doesn't feel too good. And so some Mercury energy, especially mythologically, Mercury is usually just flitting around going to different things and causing, kind of havoc sometimes in his myths. But also Mercury is also a psychopomp, meaning that he is this soul guide. So he's able to bring souls into the underworld. So you can't get any deeper than that. It's the underworld. So even though there is this connection to, Mercury just wanting to stay on the surface or mercurial energy staying on the surface, he's actually designed to go deep into the unconscious, into the underworld. So just
Wow.
remembering that as well. And yeah, so that is some of the Mercury gifts, Mercury shadow. And then with Mercury's retrograde. So Mercury is retrograde from tomorrow, July 17th, to August 11th. And I just want to mention every Mercury retrograde, there's a pre-retrograde phase and then there's a post-retrograde phase. And so the pre-retrograde phase means that Mercury is not retrograde yet,
Mm.
but he like reaches the point in like the astrological chart and also in the sky where he's going to retrograde back to. So when he hits that spot when he's direct, that actually initiates the pre-retrograde phase where it feels like Mercury is retrograde, but he's not.
It's so crazy. I'm just looking at these dates for a second. So the end of the Mercury retrograde, August 11th, that's my
Hmm.
grandma's birthday.
Wow.
And then the post retrograde phase, August 25th, is her daughter, my mother's birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, just trying to speak to me in some like
Like,
maternal like line.
right. Oh my God, that makes so much sense. We're gonna get into that in a second. Oh my God, that's exciting. So, so that I always feel like when we talk, there's like always these deep connections to your
I make
ancestors.
this shit up.
I love that. Yes. And so with so yeah, so Mercury entered his pre-retrograde phase on June 29th, which means around June 29th, it started to feel like there could be some Mercury retrograde things we're experiencing. And then it goes retrograde actually on July 17th, and then it goes direct on August 11th. And then Mercury, when he goes into or exits his post-retrograde phase, that means he's finally exited out of all of the degrees that he's already been to. He's now going into like new territory, and that's on August 25th.
Mhm.
And so for the tropical signs, Mercury will be retrograde from 15 degrees Leo and going back to 4 degrees Leo. So if you have anything in your tropical chart between 15 Leo and 4 Leo, Mercury's activating this part of your chart. And then in the living sky, it's so interesting. So in true sky, if you go to Mastering the Zodiac, which is .com, which is the chart that like they use kind of planetary software and attribute it to the astrological chart. They say that Mercury's actually begins his retrograde in Leo, like the beginning parts of Leo, and then backtracks into the Cancer constellation. But when I actually looked at this on software on my own, Mercury actually begins his retrograde in the void space between Cancer and Leo. And this really caught my attention because when planets are in this in-between space, to me, that's really important because this is where we go into the womb. This is where we go into this, yeah, the void.
Mhm.
And then he backtracks back into Cancer. So most of his retrograde will be in the constellation Cancer, but he starts on this like edge piece, this precipice piece, which is really fascinating. So, yeah, so when Mercury is retrograde, it signals a time to slow down, let go of urgency, pause, double check on the details, but because he's also the planet of paradox, also bring your sense of humor to the forefront just in case things don't go according to plan. Because sometimes we can quadruple check the details, and then during a Mercury retrograde, all of a sudden, all of those details just flew out the window, and now we're doing something we didn't see coming. Like,
Great.
oh, okay, hello.
And double check everything.
Yes. And with Mercury, anytime Mercury is retrograde, just not even just like associated with this retrograde, but anytime Mercury is retrograde, it's a huge lesson in letting go of rigid expectations and leading into adaptability and flexibility. So the first time I ever started to like consciously work with Mercury retrogrades, especially during travel, a lot of people and a lot of astrologers say, don't travel during Mercury retrogrades. And yes, I'm an astrologer, but I don't base my travel or my plans around what's going on in the sky. It's
Right.
more intuitive. And also that would drive me nuts if I had to consult a chart every time I wanted to do something. So I'm
I'm
like, no,
traveling, so
yeah, that's not for me. Um, so um, with that, I remember it was like back in 2019, I was going to go on a trip to New York with my brother, and Mercury was going to go retrograde. And I was like, oh no, people say don't do that, right? But then I read like actually what gets us caught up during Mercury retrogrades is we expect something to go a certain way. And then when it doesn't go a certain way or how we saw it, that can throw us for a loop. So I was like, you know what? Letting go of all expectations. I'm just going to have a lot of fun. And it was the most fun trip that I've
yeah.
had to New York with my brother. And it was all when Mercury was retrograde. So this is
Okay.
a big call to just like, again, almost like that Neptune tapping into the flow and
Yeah.
just letting go of those rigid expectations. And when we do let go of those expectations, it's so beautiful what shows up.
I just wrote about that in my post yesterday, how
Amazing.
I've been planning this trip for months, but then I'm realizing all the unplanned things were the most magical experience.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yep. Yep. And with all these retrogrades, not just Mercury retrograde, that's definitely a key theme. Um, and then with themes of Mercury retrograde in tropical Leo. So these are some themes with Mercury retrograde in Leo. Is definitely self-reflect, personal adjustments, letting go of imposter syndrome is huge. Inner child work is really key piece too, because Leo is deeply connected to the inner child. And then also I thought it was interesting, Ulu came up too,
Hmm.
because in medical astrology, Leo governs the spine.
Wow.
And so with Mercury retrograde in Leo, then that's oscillation. Mercury is like literally oscillating through the tropical sign of Leo. And Leo is connected to the spine. So Ulu is that connection of oscillation to the spine. So there could be really interesting, almost aha moments or things that can come up for people when they do Ulu. And so if people are interested, actually, do you mind talking on Ulu really quickly? For those that are interested?
Yeah, so Ulu is a practice that our brother Ke'oni has shared with us from his lineage of his family of Mu. And it's this for me when I feel into Ulu, it's this opening up of the spine, allowing the flow, the kind of like spinal fluid to flow up and down so that we are unblocking the emotional blockages that live in the vertebrae. And so there's certain memories that live in the vertebrae. And so I love that, the inner child especially is coming up here because that holds a lot of memories. So a lot of our core memories are held in the inner child. And so if you're feeling perhaps like a contraction or a blockage, maybe some part of your body, every part of your body is linked to your spine. So wherever that place is in the body, like kind of see where it is connected to the spinal vertebrae. And then you can associate that physical contraction or tightness or stuckness with an emotion, and that goes into like the somatic piece. So the practice of Ulu is so beautiful, and brother actually has still the free mentorship open if anyone wants to practice that. So mahalo, brother Ke'oni, for giving us this beautiful gift so that we can move through these retrogrades and have
Right.
flow keep flowing, letting ourselves hydrate in that spinal fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're interested in going and signing up for that, I think it's free still too,
Yeah.
for his Ulu mentorship, just go to his website, kohala.net, and you should be able to find it on there and sign up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
And
link it in the description too.
yes, perfect, perfect. So, yeah, so now going to themes of Mercury retrograde in the true sky. So again, according to masteringthezodiac.com, with its chart, it says that Mercury starts its retrograde in the beginning of the Leo constellation and then retrogrades back into Cancer. But upon my observations of what's happening in the actual living sky, it looks like Mercury is actually in the void, so in between two constellations. So it's in between. So it just exited out of Cancer and wasn't in Leo yet. And then, so it's in the void when it goes retrograde, and then it retrogrades back into Cancer. So some of the themes that came up around this for me when I was tapping into this is giving time and space to process what is arising from the subconscious. Creating space to nurture yourself and your nervous system is huge too. So as you can see here, there's a theme with all of these retrograde planets is coming back to taking care of the body is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
And then also there can be a possible spike in creativity, downloads, or visions too, because Cancer is deeply psychic and intuitive, and there can be a lot of creativity stuff that comes up when we're tapping into this energy. And then also releasing any fear about coming out of your shell and expressing yourself, because that shell representation with the crab in Cancer, it's Cancer is usually described as like very introverted. It very much likes to be in its own space. It likes to feel comfortable in its home, in its shell. And then if we actually bring in Leo, though, that Leo energy is all about self-expression, being bold, being seen. And so we're like really activating, letting go of this fear coming out of your shell and actually truly expressing
Mhm.
yourself, your true authentic self.
That really feels so resonant with me because of my true sky. My sun is in Leo and my moon is in Cancer.
Ah,
So I've always had this fear of like being vulnerable, right? Like allowing myself to be seen like fully.
mm-hmm.
Although when I was younger, like I was very much in the exposure of myself,
Yeah,
letting everyone know what's going on, you know?
yeah.
Now, like I'm just like protecting my energy so much because I've
Mm-hmm.
encountered so much of the distortions that I need to give myself those boundaries as I'm exposing. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like giving what you want to give,
Yes,
not giving everything,
right.
but giving what you want to give and being really discerning with what you feel you need to express also
Yeah.
is what's coming up for me.
Yeah. And I love that too, because sometimes in the past, patterns that would keep us small or hiding, even when we feel called to share, we don't do it because there can be a fear around being seen, even
Yeah.
with the things we want to share, even with the things we feel called to share, there can be a fear around that. So
Yeah.
this
You're like
Mercury
being stupid or like wrong or
or
something.
judged or
Yeah.
yeah, all those fun things.
Yeah.
And with this, activation of Leo, even though it is in that void space, in my opinion, it still, some still connected into Leo, even in tropical, it's all in Leo, the Leo placement.
Yeah.
And Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun doesn't ask permission to shine, it just shines.
We here.
It's just it's doing what it does. And so with this Mercury retrograde, it's really helping us process or even like kind of backtrack to those places within that kind of keep us hiding or keep us like wanting to feel safe and secure, even though that safety and that security can be a comfort zone that now we've grown out of. And so Mercury is helping us see which comfort zones we have now outgrown so that we can share our truest selves and be witnessed.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. And so with it's so interesting because with Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune, they're all retrograde in constellations linked to water. So
Mm-hmm.
that's Cancer and Pisces. And so with water, the water element is deeply intuitive, deeply empathic, deeply like, very much can feel everything, can feel the all. So determining what you're feeling is like determining if what you're feeling is yours versus if it's not is hugely key. And then also because there's a lot of crises happening on the planet right now. And we can see it on the palm of our hands when we just, open social media. And sometimes what we can see is even just like fabricated. Some of these things with AI now too. We don't know if it's an actually disaster or if it's not. So there's like a lot of chaos that's happening
Yeah.
in the real world, but also like even just on social media that makes us think there's a lot of stuff happening right now. So really determining for yourself if you're in a crisis or not is huge. And this is definitely a brother Ke'oni sharing with us too. And this definitely helped me change my life when he actually asked us, are you in actual crisis or are you not? And the best way to determine if you are in actual crisis is to look around your immediate environment and see if you're in immediate danger. Is your life on the line?
Yeah.
And more often than not, the answer is no. But if
Yeah.
you are truly,
Luckily. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
so when because sometimes we can start to match people who are in crisis. And sometimes it's people that we know that are in crisis, or even sometimes it's people that we don't know that are across the globe that we can feel in our hearts, like, they're going through a lot and they're going through a crisis situation. We can start to take that on. And so then that starts to take us out of our bodies, our environment, our own life, and into someone else's, yeah, energy and space. And so that doesn't mean don't be empathic, don't feel for other people. That just means because we're at this crisis tipping point right now. In my opinion, honestly, like back in like 2020 and 2021, I had a few interactions with people who weren't directly in crisis, but saw a lot of crisis happening in the world, and so they felt guilty that they weren't experiencing crisis. And so then they tried to match other people who were in crisis. And so I realized I had this kind of epiphany that because we're in a world that really asks for balance, when people are going through like legitimate crises, it's actually people who are not going through legitimate crises and actually can tap into their joy, into their own safety, into their own flow.
Yeah.
That balances the scales a little bit so that people who do need to be navigating their own crisis moments has the energy to, so the whole collective isn't all in crisis at one time.
Yeah, there has to be like someone who's anchoring into safety,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I've experienced too with everything happening in the Middle East and everything happening all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
With the terror, with the wars and the destruction and the murders and all of that, right? It could get very, very heavy. And
Yeah.
people, want to feel like they're in allegiance by being on the same energy level as everyone going through that. But then what happens? We all are going to crumble, and there's
Mm-hmm.
no one holding their own personal being
Yeah.
in this stability, and so you can empathize and you can have compassion and you can be an intentional action to do something to
Yes.
prevent or to help or support in some way. But it doesn't mean that you need to lose yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you need to lose yourself in the pain and suffering of others, but to be compassionate with it
Mm-hmm.
and to witness it. And for me, the best thing that I could ever do for, people who are actually going through crisis is to pray for them.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for them because there's nothing that I could actually do to
Mm-hmm.
like physically change what's
Right.
going on. And so what I can do energetically and spiritually is keep praying for
Mm-hmm.
this world to finally be at peace.
Mm-hmm.
And to also encourage others and to be with others in a one-to-one space or group ceremony to heal. to heal
Yes.
what we need so we don't keep perpetuating this energy of war.
Hmm.
Right. So that's what I can do. That's my capacity. I can't do more than that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a perfect, yeah, exclamation point on what we're experiencing right now with all of these retrograding planets through these very potent constellations in the sky and what that can, really illuminate and amplify on this planet. And so, yeah, we're very much being guided here right now to really that I would just keep saying discernment is just a huge piece of what's going on with all of these retrograde planets right now. And then also taking really good care of your physical body too is huge because that helps with the discernment piece
Mhm.
too, in order
Yeah.
to discern what's yours, what's not, and all of those things. But yeah, and then anything else you wanted to add?
I think just embody
Yeah.
your boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Be in integrity with yourself and don't lose yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Easy.
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
And then just lastly, I just wanted to show you the this is like the true sky like from masteringthezodiac.com, like this image screenshot of Mercury starting his retrograde. So this is July 17th tomorrow when he goes retrograde. As you can see here, it's like on this line between Cancer and Leo.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at it on other astrology or astronomy software, this is this line here, like on this software, is not demarcated in the astronomy software I use, and it's just this void space. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that seems like a void to me. And also it's connecting in with Cancer, which is Cancer is the mother, and void space is the womb. So this connection to mother lines, grandmothers, all of those things, kind of like how we talked about Pluto's activating his retrogrades activating father line, Mercury
Mhm.
retrogrades activating the mother line.
Ugh,
Yes.
it makes so much sense. And the mother energy has been really, really loud lately, especially with the sisterhood. It just feels
Mhm.
like there's a lot of mothering going on
Yes.
within the circle, but within ourselves and also what the earth needs.
Yes.
The Mother Earth needs also her own mothering, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And if she can't hold herself, then we have to hold her too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally to just to complete this slide, we've got Mercury going direct on August 11th. As you can see, he's like directly in the Cancer constellation. So,
Grandma.
yes. And so yeah, that is the last, let's see, stop share. So yeah, that is our tour through
Wow.
the retrograde
Amazing. Yeah, and
party.
if you can maybe speak a little bit, maybe just give a little bit of a small reminder of the Aries and Chiron retrogrades that are
Yes.
going to happen.
So on, let me see here. So with Eris, Eris is going retrograde from July 22nd until January 11th, 2026. And then Chiron goes retrograde on July 30th until January 2nd, 2026. And Eris is the goddess of discord and chaos. And, but she doesn't, the way that I was taught to work with her energy was she doesn't create discord and chaos. She just unveils the discord and the chaos that were already present.
Mhm.
And so there's this unveiling that's happening with Eris energy. And then with Chiron, Chiron's the wounded healer, so it can really activate some of our deepest wounds as well as our greatest gifts at healing. So both of them, so Eris and Chiron are both in tropical Aries. So we've got a lot of Aries stuff going on in tropical astrology with Saturn going retrograde there, Neptune going retrograde there, and then we've got Chiron and Eris also going retrograde through Aries.
Yeah.
And Aries is connected to the masculine. It's like the first masculine type of like fiery energy we've got in the chart. And so there's definitely a healing going on around the masculine. So the
Yeah.
masculine energy, our own internal masculine, you know, yeah. So there's just a lot going on in that realm. And then, but in True Sky, all of this is in Pisces. So we've got Chiron in Pisces, we've got Neptune in Pisces, and Saturn's in Pisces. And what's interesting, Eris though is so off the ecliptic. So the ecliptic is the path of the sun, the apparent path of the sun around the Earth. Obviously, we don't revolve the Earth. The sun doesn't revolve around the Earth, but
Mhm.
it looks like the sun is revolving around us. And so that revolution of the sun that takes around the Earth, that's called the ecliptic. And so the planets usually stay kind of on the ecliptic line. So it like
Mhm.
stays kind of on the path that the sun, creates. But there are certain times of the year when planets kind of go off the ecliptic and kind of go off into their own areas of the
Yeah.
sky. And Eris is definitely not on the ecliptic right now. And she has such an erratic orbit that it makes sense. She's just moves in her own
It's
way.
chaotic.
She's just like, yeah, I'm going to do what I do. And so she's considered to be in Pisces in like astrology, but actually, if you look to see where she's at in the true sky, she's in Cetus, the whale
Oh wow,
constellation.
yeah. Yep.
And so what I loved about this is whales are for me when I started talking, I did a whole talk on this on another astrologer's podcast of the Eris and Chiron conjunction. Um, and like I had just watched like a whole documentary on whales like right before I went and did this podcast. And the sperm whales are something that really caught my attention because sperm whales are have evolved to the point where they dive thousands and thousands of miles beneath the ocean, and their tails are adapted to be able to go to these deep, dark depths in order to eat and feed and then come back up to the surface. And so, this energy of diving deep, of going deep within and like going down into the depths is definitely connected to Eris right now because she's in the whale constellation. And also there that can be this connection to whales and navigation. So Eris, like, yeah, she's the goddess of discord and chaos, and we might be experiencing a lot of chaos right now. But her being in the whale constellation, whales are deeply connected to being able to navigate like huge journeys through the ocean and being able to know where to go. And so even though we might be in chaotic moments or experiencing chaos, her being in Cetus is showing us that we actually do know how to navigate this.
Yeah.
Even if it's not clear
Yeah.
at the moment,
Yeah.
there can be this connection to being able to navigate chaos in that way.
Yeah, I love that because it does feel very chaotic right now, with a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
unknown things and being able to navigate the unknown. But there's
Yeah.
something that was interesting, as we started these retrogrades, like Pluto started in May, and then we started to get into more retrogrades.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's a lot more depth going
Yeah.
within all the retrogrades. Pluto just kind of gave the big picture, and then all the other retrogrades are like detailing
Yeah.
what actually needs to be dove in deeper into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there was this man who posted something on Instagram, and he was saying that the Earth had, so her normal calm state frequency
Mm-hmm.
is like 7.8 hertz, but
Mm-hmm.
she went to like 72 hertz, which is a full-blown panic.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think, my feeling of this, and this is my own personal intuitive feeling of why she's going into this panic attack is perhaps with all these retrogrades influencing now, is she wants us to go deeper, like really do the deeper healing and not just be on that like surface, like, oh, I'm aware of what the patterns are that I need to change, but am I really changing them?
Mm-hmm.
Am I really
Mm-hmm.
being in integrity with my true self, or am I just teetering on the, it looks good to heal, but it kind of hurts. So I'm gonna like just put a band-aid for now, But with all these retrogrades, especially like Eris, when she's going down into the depths, it's like really, really asking us to go into, your physical body and see what's
Mm-hmm.
the memory that's like staying in my shoulder and
Yeah.
how come it's been there for so long,
Yeah.
in every part of our body. What is it that's been there that's chronic that hasn't left yet?
Mm-hmm.
And what memory is lying there that needs to be released finally?
Mm-hmm.
We need to complete that.
Yes.
And I'm speaking personally because I have felt all my emotional blockages as personal, like physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken me 7 years to restore my lower back because I wasn't going deep enough. And now I've gone deep into the feminine. She's good.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But now my masculine and my shoulder
Yeah.
is like, hey, we need a little bit more tending here. Let's
Mm.
go deeper. And so this last week, I've just been in this deep ceremony with my shoulder. Like, what
Yeah.
is it that you need?
Yeah.
Being really, really curious and just allowing him space to speak.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, um, the masculine wounding of the vulnerability piece, not wanting to feel weak, and also overcompensating because
Mm-hmm.
nothing I ever did was good enough. Those were like the deep things that were coming up, and they were all linked to my maternal line.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
being aware now and knowing what it is, but wanting to release it, but
Mm-hmm.
to complete it
Yeah.
needs to be done for that depth to be completed. Like that
Yes.
wounding, the healing of the wound needs to be completed.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to go deep.
Yes. And I love that too, with because you mentioned memory and, going deep into, the body in order to uncover the memories that are coming up in these, moments of physical pain and things like that. And Cancer, the Cancer constellation and the Cancer sign are deeply linked to memory. And
Yeah.
all the water signs are actually connected to memory. But Cancer is said to be the sign that holds all memory in astrology. And then with Pisces, Pisces is also like, the third final water sign. It's oceanic consciousness, but it's also the water of the unconscious. So
Yeah.
we've got memory with Cancer, and then we've got the unconscious memories with Pisces all getting stirred up right now.
Yeah.
So
And
there
I'm
can be a
feeling,
lot rising. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm feeling that as a purification of our waters.
Hmm.
And that even speaks loudly into the physical planet where all of our water is being polluted.
Hmm.
Here in Hawaii, it's like
Hmm.
they have the jet fuel that was going down into Mililani,
Mm.
and unsafe water to drink and consume and to even use. So I'm not even touching the tap water here,
Yeah.
But on a more personal and collective level, we need to purify our waters.
Hmm.
It means to come into our memory and transmute them into
Hmm.
something else.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to stay in the past. We
Hmm.
can actually give it some time to rebirth itself, to renew itself. And I think of it kind of like the ocean waves, how they come in and out and they purify you. They bring in the new energy and they take away what needs to be released back into the ocean to recycle that and purify it again.
Yeah.
Um, and also the waters being our ancestors, right?
Mm.
Primordial
Hmm.
ancestors.
Yeah.
I feel this coming back to origins all the time. The beginning of beginnings is what our sisterhood elder, Nakumi Selena Mu, said yesterday in our call, is that Earth would like us to come back to the beginning of beginnings.
Mm.
And when I think about beginning of beginnings, I think about Kumulipo and the Meane'e and all that stuff. And again, comes back to water,
Hmm.
comes back to the creation piece, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just so fascinating that in the living sky, meaning where all the planets are actually at in the sky, it's activating what we just talked about with Pisces, the Pisces constellation, which are the two fish, but also connected to water in the ocean. And then also Eris comes in with that whale energy of being able to navigate those oceanic consciousness,
Yeah.
yeah, pieces and
Wow.
coming back to the origins.
Yeah, the whales have been loud.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, all the ocean creatures are just like,
Yes.
I'm here. Guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Such a beautiful assessment and education for us all on the retrograde season.
Yes.
This party of the retrograde. So
Mhm.
if any of you have any comments or reflections about this, we'd love to hear about that. So drop it down in the comments. If you'd like to contact Sister Natasha, she has her Substack, and I will link that down below as well. And if you want a reading with her, are you in capacity for readings these days, sis?
So yeah, so I am still currently on hiatus, like a brief
Okay.
hiatus. I should be able to be taking readings again come in like September-ish. But what I am doing right now is if you are interested in getting a reading, just go to my contact page on my website and just shoot me an email, just letting me know that you would like to be placed on a waiting list for a reading. And then I'll put you on the waiting list, which means that you'll get notified via email that my books are open when readings resume.
Beautiful. Mahalo nui, sis. Thank you so much for being here again today and giving us such depth into these planets and the retrogrades and your mana'o, your wisdom as a cosmic navigator. So beautiful and so happy to have you in the Sisterhood of Mu Council. Things are going to happen, guys. We are changing things around. The reform is here.
Mhm.
Mahalo. And is there any last words you'd like to say?
Um, yeah, just thank you so much for inviting me on this like really wonderful conversation with you again on your podcast. And yeah, just really again, just the things that keep coming to me is just really be gentle with yourself right now, just because there's so much happening in our realities, but also with all the shifting cosmic things happening in astrology and astronomy. Like there's a lot of things happening at different layers right now. And so just taking things slow and taking your time and letting go of that urgency piece is just very key right
Hmm.
now.
Thank you for that reminder and that invitation and that permission to do that.
Mhm.
Aloha ma.
Aloha.